the 8th cycle of Dubai International Project Forum, held under the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Crown Prince of Dubai and Chairman of Dubai Executive Council. This year's forum, held under the name Bridging Communities, highlights how strong project management can create real, lasting impact, improving lives, strengthening communities, and supporting sustainable development. Over the next 60 minutes, we will hear from leaders shaping the future of work. Each speaker will have 30 minutes, followed by a few minutes for questions. It's now my pleasure to welcome our first speaker for the Social Entrepreneurship Parallel Session, Laura Aristano. Laura is the founder and the president of Social Fair, the Center for Social Innovation in Italy, and vice president of Social Fair Seed, Italy's first impact seed fund. She brings extensive global experience in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and innovation. Please join me in welcoming Laura to the stage. All the best.
Thank you, and very much welcome, and very grateful for this invitation. And I was asked, as my anchor just said, to share with you some insights about social entrepreneurship and how actually project management can actually contribute and shape the future of social entrepreneurship. But first of all, allow me to share some theoretical background and then go deeper into a little bit of practice that I had the privilege to shape and also to lead. Social entrepreneurship, as you probably know, is the ability to develop new solutions, innovative solutions to key societal challenges. It is social not only in the what it aims to, but in the how we're gonna achieve the impact that intentionally we want to deploy via social innovations and social entrepreneurship. You're familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, but this is just a projection of the greatest challenges for the next decade. And as you can see, you can track, most of them are quite well known, but very little is known about how little still the investment and impact investment and social investment is deployed in two main challenges: democracy and technological development. So just 2% of the worldwide impact capital is today allocated in the so-called democracy or peace tech solutions. And you can see, in fact, the scenario, the macro scenario, the world scenario in which we are at. Technological development is something that is being taken for granted. But here again, the deployment of capital and also of know-how of social entrepreneurs is needed, are needed, because it's not only the what, but also the how. How is technological development be designed? How is it managed? How inclusive it is? And here, just to share how little or how much progress is being made in Europe, this is a past 5-year period check done by the European Commission on the European countries, and you can see that the first one, peace and justice, actually has been terribly, I would say, impacted. And so you can see how also in Europe, how many goals, how much still there is to be done in order to achieve more, I would say, inclusive development. So there is a way. There is a challenge for us all, and the way is purpose. We need to be driven by purpose, and we need also to be very explicit in our impact statement, Purpose matters because it keeps people more motivated at work. It builds satisfaction, motivation, passion, and loyalty. Millennials leave within 2 years their companies if there is no mission alignment. And again, if you see the Global Human Capital Trend Report, you see that across the different regions and across the different industries, the main topics that again are coming up in terms of needs of innovation are almost identical. Organizational design, which new design do we need for our new companies? What kind of leadership? And there is lots of talk about that. What kind of culture? And again, here, a reframing question. What kind of culture do we need if we want to generate positive impact of our society? What kind of, again, of project management do we need? Culture goes also through the management we are able to support our companies with. And all that opens up to what has been called, has been defined, the era of impact economy. And this is just a way to represent it from the early modern, we go now, or we are now in the impact economy era, meaning the well-being of people, the quality of life of people, of the planet, are at the center of our innovation efforts, of our managerial effort, of our capital financing effort. It's the ambition to allocate resources efficiently for people, planet, prosperity, and progress. Prosperity has to be shared, but the ultimate goal is social progress. And again, in order to upgrade all of us to the impact economy framework, we need at least 3 things to happen. Recognizing the value, which is not only tangible value. At the beginning, it may be intangible value. So we need to be equipped with the right know-how to become a value explorer, okay? Impact transparency, being very transparent, clear on our impact statement, and of course targeting incentives, meaning deploying resources. This is a way, this is a way to represent social economy. I'm sorry, I want to go back, one still back. Thank you. Here. The impact economy actually stays within this spectrum. So it's not philanthropy, it's not traditional economy, but it spans between a responsible and impact-driven economy. What does that mean? It means that actually we can go from avoiding harm with our solutions, with our innovation, to actually contribute to solutions. I would say that the most radical is going or trying to contribute to solutions. And in that respect, again, project management plays a key role. Some figures, some data about social enterprises in the world. More than 10 million social enterprises. This is the data of 2024. 2 trillion in annual revenue, more than 200 million jobs. Thank you. And what is also very important is that these social enterprises all over the world are seeking capital, more than 1 trillion financing capital needed in any form, debt, equity, impact investing. So it's a new, actually, opportunity for the financial world. I said about the economic contribution, but the important thing is also that job creation in or via social enterprises actually gets more inclusive, closer to the people, closer to the needs, and actually allows to deploy innovations that are relevant to the people. The gender representation is higher in social entrepreneurship, but not only in terms of people working, but also in terms of female leadership. And then, of course, the financing sector, which is growing, and therefore there is also a challenge of what kind of financial instruments can be developed. In Europe, in the US, there is lots of effort to actually build what is called blended finance or patient capital in a way that supports the social innovation, but at the same time guarantees returns on investment. Sector characteristics, it's mission-driven, and it spans now across different diverse industries. The European Commission, for the first time in 2023, has defined social and proximity economy as an industrial clusters, side by side with avionics, for example. Resilience, it lasts more, it endures more shocks, economic shocks, and is mainly community focused. The future challenges, there is little data, or I would say fragmented data on social entrepreneurial world worldwide, and there is this financial gap that I told you before, and there is a policy framework that needs to be defined more and more. How? Well, we need social entrepreneurs. And we need, as project managers, also to be assigned social entrepreneurs, to be part of the social entrepreneurship journey. It means that project management becomes a co-authoring way of supporting social entrepreneurship. Why? Because we need to keep an eye to go side by side with intentionality of the social entrepreneurship, meaning which is my end game, what I'm up to, which is my long-term outcome, and not only focusing on outputs. And I support you and I invite you to read some of these articles that I'm sharing with you. We, as project managers, again, we needed to support the methodological choice of creating a social enterprises, meaning how do we do that? How inclusive, how open, what kind of co-design and co-participating methodology is applied while building a social enterprise. And we need to be aware of the importance of creating ecosystems, of connecting, bridging communities, meaning bridging ecosystems. The social enterprise in itself actually is born via ecosystems and needs to be, I would say, nurtured with new ecosystems. Again, a part of project management's efforts need to go in that direction. Some impact evidence, very briefly. What happens when all that converges? Well, in Social Fair and the Center of Social Innovation, we actually call the project management acceleration. Acceleration of capacity, acceleration of finance, acceleration of impact. In fact, we also are defined as a social impact accelerator. This is a social enterprise. It's called SEP Jordan, actually, because it's been delivered or was born in Jordan, and stands for Social Enterprise Project. While two former bankers, they were actually going in their spare time to Jordan to visit the refugee camps, and they were seeing it actually that there was a high level of suicide, a low level of education, and a poor quality of life. But they had noticed something very interesting, that each ethnic group that was actually hosted at Jerash camp in Jordan owned a decoration pattern, a decorative pattern, which was part of their identity. That is an intangible asset. Well, they registered each decoration pattern in the name of the community, of the groups that were hosted at the Jerash camp, and started to teach women and men how to sew and embroider high-level, high-quality fabrics, imported to Jordan from all over the world, but mainly from Italy and France, silk cashmere, and so on. After 2-3 years, they started to place all their accessory, and you can look on the website, sep.com, in high street markets. But the important thing is that the revenue that they gained were able to pay back the workers in the Jerash camp, to allow them to find a new mission in their life, to build a new educational infrastructures outside of the camps for the kids that were born there, and the level of suicide and depression that was very high before the project got started went down drastically. On top of that, a big ethical fashion fund invested in the company, and now the company is growing very fast. We invested in them when they were like a very, I would say, super early stage startup, and we deployed patient capital that now we are, I would say, gaining back in terms of returns on investment. I would like to share with you just one more example. Uno Bravo is a platform for psychotherapy online. You may say, so what? I mean, it's something very, very widespread. Well, these 3 girls came to us because they had, again, found a very specific insight. Language, native, psychotherapy in the language of Italian expatriates worldwide. And a whole new world actually was opening in terms of business opportunities. But again, their main focus, their intentionality, the end game was what I'm up to. What kind of stigma do I want to fight? And the stigma was, let's take care of mental health. I will skip all the remainings just to share with you that social entrepreneurship is about innovation, social innovation mainly, that is, innovation relevant to the people. It's about cohesion, how we create a community which is open, not closed. It's the way how we build sustainability, which is not only environmental sustainability, but it's first and utmost, I would say, social sustainability, and it's about our intentional impact. Which role do we intentionally choose to play as project managers? Well, far beyond what we would understand or have understood up until now. We need to design impact-driven ecosystems, to be aware and skilled in social innovation knowledge, to try to shape community places, to be able to raise so-called patient capital, and to support the design of social economic policies. It means that we need also to shape new know-how, new capacity as researchers of social value, which is intangible. Scientists for intentional innovation, so overcoming the dichotomy between technology or technological and social innovation, becoming designers of social impact, investors for social progress, and policy makers driven by positive impact. It takes a village. We are bridging communities, but actually it takes an open and consistent and transparent village to go well beyond this forum. That is the first step. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Laura. Let us now continue with the second speaker in the Social Entrepreneur Parallel Session. Our next speaker is Amanda Lenagan, a strategic advisor with more than 20 years of experience, driving businesses for social impact across mobility, financial services, technology, and the non-profit sector. She supports organizations in embedding purpose into their business strategies, creating shared value, and building partnerships that deliver measurable results. Amanda focuses on purpose-led innovation, how businesses can bridge communities, build trust, and collaborate to address societal challenges. Please join me in welcoming Amanda to the stage.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I hope that delay created a little bit of excitement in the conversation we will continue. That was fabulous, Laura, and I would love to echo many of the learnings you shared with us. But I want to thank all of you for being here today, and especially I want to thank the anchor for that kind introduction, and the conference organizers for bringing us together around such an important topic. When I heard the conversation today would be on bridging communities and the theme of this conference would be focused on that, I just thought I have to take that 16-hour flight from California to come, because it is what I've spent my career on, and I know I can learn so much from all of you in the room throughout this conference in terms of different ideas we can exchange, ways we can learn from each other, and how we can think about purpose-led innovation, so bringing together business growth with societal progress. So that's what I'll talk to you about today. Why are we talking about purpose-led innovation in this moment? Well, as we sit here today, there's actually a lot of global pressures facing businesses. There's so much exciting acceleration and growth, and being here in Dubai this last week, it has been absolutely awe-inspiring. But at the same time, we know that there are pressures that are facing both businesses and communities. For example, 1.4 billion workers will need to be reskilled as a result of AI and automation just in the next few years. We also know that 4 billion people lack access to basic digital needs, so being able to go online for education, being able to participate in the digital economy. So these are just a few examples of some of the pressures facing business. And society is demanding that we do better. We need to find ways to address what is not working in the status quo, as well as celebrate where we are finding success. So this is what we're focused on today, because I believe that if you are a purpose-led innovator, if you're a company who thinks about not only business growth, but also societal progress, you actually have a competitive advantage. So here are a few of the advantages that I've seen in my career from companies who have taken this approach, and they include accelerating innovation, opening new markets, building a stronger brand, and importantly, attracting, retaining, and developing their talent. And at the same time, we're seeing a social return on investment, so increasing access and opportunity. And importantly, one of the key focuses of this conference, being environmental stewards. Now, there are many ways that this can take shape, and I just wanted to share a few examples with you of what this can look like in terms of how you might structure corporate societal engagement or corporate social impact. What matters most, regardless of the approach that is taken, is that there's real alignment with the company's focus areas in a way that's authentic to them, right? So we need to ensure that companies are focused on issues that are relevant to their communities, but also where they have a material interest, and it really makes sense for them to authentically be engaged. We also need to make sure that it's managed really well. If they decide to take on a social issue, it needs to be managed well and measured. So we'll talk about that in more detail. But just a couple examples here. If you were to be a company that was structured in 3 very diverse regions with diverse needs, you might take a clustered approach and focus on 3 different social issues because those are the issues that are most relevant to that community. Whereas if you were, for example, a financial services firm and you had offices around the globe, perhaps there was relevance in bringing financial inclusion in some form to each of your cities where you work. So I know we are all about action and effective execution. So all of these intentions really don't matter if they aren't followed through with action and measured in terms of the impact. So I'd love to share with you just a basic framework that I've used in my work, and hopefully it can be relevant to all of you as well. First of all, we have to start with the why behind our work. I think Laura said this so well in referencing that Stanford Social Innovation Review article. What's our end game? So we all have a corporate vision, or many of us have the reason our company exists. Well, our societal or social impact mission should support that. So again, with the financial services example, if we're a company that exists to ensure our clients can own their financial futures, perhaps our social impact mission could be ensuring that those who haven't had access to the financial economy are able to participate, or those who are underbanked could participate in the financial economy as well. And I'd like to get into the how around several pillars that will sound familiar, and I'm echoing much of what Laura shared as well. I'll focus today on people, product, and purpose, meaning what is that why and how are we measuring the societal and environmental impacts that we want to see? And of course, anytime we're going to get to the how, it's essential that we're managing this well throughout our work streams and life cycles. We need to ensure that we have effective project management. It's critical that we start with people. Any innovation, anytime we're building something new, we have the chance to think about how to do so in a way that is human-centered and brings people together and will ultimately have a positive impact on our communities, our employees, and our stakeholders. Product. When we design solutions, again, especially new solutions, that's a chance to think about how can we come up with a solution that's even better than what we have today in terms of who it serves. Are there any populations that are currently excluded? I've focused here on this human-centered design model because I've seen it be really effective in a lot of cases where you bring in community members, future customers, people that have been excluded from your industry, and you learn from them, and then you iterate. You get feedback. You create this feedback loop that really allows you to explore how your solutions can meet unmet needs as well as be innovative in how they're addressing and expanding to deliver your products to new markets. And purpose. This is our end game. We have to anchor to the why behind the work that we're doing. So the key principles here are really to create and measure shared value. So of course we're going to measure the business outcomes that we need to see. Of course we're going to drive for financial performance. But what are we measuring beyond financial performance? What are the societal and environmental impacts that we want to have an impact on? So that might be looking at our talent, our innovation, our new markets from a business lens, from a societal lens. It might be thinking about where we align to the UN SDGs that Laura so kindly walked us through. So this is really important because it gives you a North Star in terms of where you can focus over the long term, and then you can work towards small incremental steps to get there. So I would encourage all of us to think about, and I'd love to hear from you if we have time for questions and discussion, around if it's possible to integrate even one additional metric in the projects that you're working on that tie and anchor to either a societal or environmental impact. Because I believe when you start practicing that, it shows up in your company's processes, it shows up in how your people and your culture lead projects, and what I've learned in my career is what is measured gets managed. So if you have a metric, people are going to want to see you report on it. Your leadership's going to want to see how we're doing. Everyone's going to adopt that this is the norm. We need to be thinking about all of these metrics, and we're accountable to them. So that's a quick overview of the framework that I've used, and I'd love to take just a few minutes to walk through some examples to bring this to life. So we have to start with people, because people are the reason we're doing all of this work. And I really believe in the age of AI, and I've done some recent consulting in AI for Good, that all of our work has to be human-centered. And so this is an example of thinking about the people at your company as your human capital. It's a huge asset that all of us have. We know how talented the people sitting around us in our teams are, and that's an incredible resource to be deployed when you're thinking about how you want to show up in your communities and how you want to innovate. So this is an example from a financial services firm that I worked with, where we already had in place a volunteer model. We had a global week of service. So many of you likely also experienced this, where you work with a company or teams that want to get out in the community, you want to connect with your stakeholders, and you also want to give back. So this is a very common practice. But when I started at this company, I looked around the room, and I saw 13,000 employees that had an average of 20 years experience. I'd worked at other startups where the average age was 25. So this was a significant resource that we were sitting on. And we were typically engaging in our communities by painting a community center or doing a beach cleanup. And that was valuable work. But at the same time, we had leaders in human resources and finance and strategy and technology and project management. And they had amazing skills and talents that weren't fully being tapped, while at the same time, we had nonprofit community partners, NGOs, who were incredibly resource constrained and had specific needs in these same areas. So when we did a needs assessment and we looked at the skills and talents of our employees, we thought, why don't we take this model that's worked well for the company in terms of how we show up in the community and evolve it to be a pro bono model. So we built the Pro Bono Challenge, and ultimately this was still a one-day session where we would bring together teams of employees in specific areas of expertise, and we would address a specific challenge for that nonprofit that would help build their capacity. So it might be building a financial model, for example, for the organization. And what we found is that created significant value for the NGOs we worked with, about the equivalent of $500,000 US just through this event we did across 9 cities with 70 NGOs and 400 employees, so significantly more valuable than what we had done in our hands-on volunteering projects. But what was innovative about this for the business and created a business return was that we had senior leaders, executives, working with individual contributors. They'd never worked together on a team before. We had a cultural evolution where people were able to collaborate, learn from each other, and experience and demonstrate their skills in a completely new environment. So this became a talent development program. Our chief people officer decided to fund and take this on and expand it in a way that we knew we would benefit from serving the community in this way and that this would be valuable, but it also would serve the company in terms of how we developed and attracted talent. Another quick example I'd love to share is how you bring people into the product design process. So I've used a community advisory model at a autonomous vehicle company that I worked for, and the goal of this was really to make sure we had the right stakeholders in the room that we could learn from. And anytime you're building something new in terms of a completely new technology, you really have to pause and think about who's not being served. So who's not being served by transportation today was a big question. And we also knew that there would be a critical need to bring the right stakeholders in the room around safety, accessibility, and we also wanted to think about community benefit. So we created councils that had leaders from each of these areas, so safety, law enforcement officers, leaders in safety, and we would work with them to understand what was needed to ensure our vehicles could interact with them more safely. We brought together accessibility leaders who had insights around how, for example, the blind and low vision community could benefit from autonomous vehicles, and we were able to listen to their feedback and evolve our product to be able to serve them. And then finally, the community benefit advisory council that we built was able to give us insights around key issues like workforce development. What could we do in that space together with NGO leaders? We also were able to explore how to build pilots and partnerships that would inform what our product could do to serve community needs. So in moments of crisis, like when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we were able to mobilize our vehicles to be a tool for delivering food to people who were homebound and unable to access their typical food banks or sources where they would go for food. And we also stood up a food recovery driverless delivery program. And these programs were beneficial to the community, but they also gave our operations team the chance to have their first customer. So before we were even commercially operating, we were able to learn from these nonprofit partnerships. So I just wanted to share that as a quick example of how getting the system in the room, the key stakeholders that can inform your product, really can help you design a more inclusive solution. And finally, there's a lot on this slide. It's something I'm actively working on, but I wanted to use it as an example to show you how this framework can work in real time. So I'm working with a coalition of companies and an intermediary of companies who've all pledged a certain percentage of their assets, their people, their product, their time to contribute to social causes. And what we're finding, especially in Silicon Valley where I'm based, is there's a lot of concern about the future workforce and that question that we started with around the 1.4 billion employees and workers who are going to need to be reskilled. So we're working on coming together and thinking about how we can equip the future workforce to thrive in this age of AI. And so this is just an example of what we're working on in terms of our program, an open AI readiness curriculum, how we'll support nonprofits, and how the people, product, and purpose framework works in this scenario. Finally, I want to close with just a note on the leadership component, because none of this matters if we're not able to really get back to addressing those big societal challenges that we've seen and talked about at the beginning of this conversation. There's a real opportunity for leadership in this moment. When we think about the businesses that we need, the solutions we need, the age of AI, it's so critical that we're people first, human-centered, that our leadership is building trust and building bridges, and ultimately that we have that long-term vision and North Star to be able to think about ultimately that why, the impact we want to have in the world, and we can work towards and measure how to get there. And I would be remiss not to mention the specific role that the project management field and professionals play here. So I've mentioned just a few areas that come to mind, from beginning of projects to measurement, but really bringing that shared value mindset, thinking about societal and environmental outcomes as a part of the project management life cycle. I would encourage all of us to bring more of this into our work because I think it's actually these small incremental steps that ultimately create big change. I think we may have a moment or two for questions. Wonderful. I'd also invite, if there's, I know there's so much expertise in this room, if there's anyone else who has an interesting idea, solution, or challenge that they want to share, that's welcome as well. No?
So anyone have any questions for Amanda and Laura? Just feel free to ask. Okay.
Okay, I can quickly close and pass to you. So
sure.
just a few top takeaways. I think these are hopefully clear if I did my job today. We do have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for the very nice presentation. يعني more and more including sustainability and environment requirement is more and more coming into projects. And usually people don't give it as individual project managers more priority in their plans and implementations. Did you face that, or did you find projects where this have been given very high priority, even it will have impact on cost, time, and delivery of the project?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. Absolutely, that's a huge challenge. How do you bridge a big strategy or an idea of we want to have positive environmental outcomes in each of our projects, which with the day-to-day pressure and decisions that you have to make as a project manager, I think if the culture has aligned to wanting this North Star of really being purpose-driven and purpose-led, and we can continue to remind ourselves of the business value of all of this, I've found that that's a key way that we can kind of bridge that gap, but that's a real tension, and I appreciate you highlighting it. Wonderful. Well, in closing, I just want to say thank you for the role that each of you play in driving innovation and in moving impact forward for society. I'm so inspired to be here to learn from all of you, and it's been my absolute pleasure to speak this morning. Thank you so much. Oh, we do have one more.
It's just from your experience. Do you think we need to include the new generation? Because you are focusing in leaders. So in your like all the experts which you have,
Yes.
and the models which you already conduct, did you include the families? Maybe you will focus in one age, like for example, between 13 to 20 or something like this, which will help the future generation to be more involved and to start thinking not only about the AI to remove their brain, instead to start thinking and getting some of the experience from the people around them.
Yes, so including the younger generations in some of these efforts, but also in serving them. Like, how are they going to benefit and participate in this age of acceleration in AI? That's a lot of what we're focusing on in that coalition. We want to ensure that we're getting into schools, that we're making it clear what's available with AI and what are the durable skills that you need as any individual to be successful, regardless of what area of work you end up going into. So there's a wonderful way to think about. I love that suggestion that we include the next generation, and I think there's even more interest in that generation in being active and engaged in these topics.
I believe they are very clever, smart, but they need some people to guide them, because if we will leave them to the AI itself, they will forget themselves and they will just focus about how to make their life easy, simple, and stop thinking maybe sometimes. Thank you.
That's a good point. Thank you.
I think we have another question.
Okay.
Hi, thank you for your talk. Just a quick question about the different models of how you could do the social engagement. And there was the confetti, and the last
Yeah.
one was the ecosystem. So where can I get more information about those?
Yes, I'm happy to send you a link to that source. I wanted to share my email as well as my LinkedIn. That was from the Committee Encouraging Corporate Philanthropy, and they put that model together. There's a whole paper around that. So I'm happy if you shoot me an email. I'm happy to share that with you, or also make sure the conference organizers have a link.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions?
Hello. My question is a bit technical. What kind of tools that we have in the market which enables things like grant management, pro bono, or fund management overall?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are actually firms and intermediaries who specialize in this. One example is Idara. They're a global organization that structures and manages this type of engagement. And they are actually focused a lot on AI right now. So they're bringing together tools that you can build as a kind of a single sign-on integrated solution for your company. They're also doing the vetting of the nonprofits and organizations, so that's helpful. But they're a great starting point if you're thinking about how to kind of engage an intermediary who has these solutions and can bridge getting the right organizations to connect with you. But I think there's still a lot to be desired in terms of effective technical tools in this space. It's an area that I think we'll continue to see growth in, especially with AI.
Okay, thank you.
Here?
Hi. Was like a moment in your life or your journey when you realized that your work made like a very positive impact in someone's life?
Oh, that's such a heartwarming question. I will probably reference the 2.5 million meals we delivered in COVID, because these were elderly, disabled, people that couldn't get out of their homes at a time when in California in COVID, like we completely shut the cities down. And so I was able to see that impact, and I was also able to see the impact and the agency on the faces of individuals that could experience a new technology or a form of transportation when otherwise they had no access to really being independent. And so it really meant a lot to be able to listen first, understand what their challenges were, and then actually influence our company to take action, because it was both a market opportunity as well as a chance to support someone's independence and agency. But that's such a wonderful question, bringing it down to the personal and individual level. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you again
you
for
so
this
much.
opportunity, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Can I?
Okay, those are yours? I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Amanda, and thank you to all of you, our attendees, for your attention and thoughtful questions. I hope you found our sessions useful, and please feel free in the next couple of days if you may have any questions for Laura and Amanda. With that, I would like to draw our session to close. We will begin our opening keynote and main forum session at the arena at 10 a.m. Thank you all of you for your participation, and thank you so much.